Welcome to the Midwest Marvel Podcast, a podcast for people who are passionate about pop and nerd culture. And on today's episode, we are talking about everything Black Panther. We are diving into some of our favorite theories and expectations for Wakanda Forever because that's coming out this week. It's coming out Thursday. We're recording this on a Sunday, so we're just a few days away from the worldwide release of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We're also going to pay some tribute to the original movie, the first Black Panther, talk about some of the things that we love the most from that movie, what made that such an iconic MCU movie in its own right, and of course pay tribute to Chadwick Boseman by talking about him and his life, his legacy, and what he's done for the MCU and just Hollywood and yeah, Earth in general, because yeah, he's an all-time great. So I'm your host, Nick Adams, aka Midwest Marvel Guy. Make sure you guys hit me up on all those social medias at Midwest Marvel Guy, one word, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Would seriously appreciate y'all. And with me is the White Wolf himself, my co-host, Zeke Farnsworth.
How's it going, man? I haven't gotten White Wolf before. I have gotten Wolverine a few times.
Yeah.
Longer hair.
Dude, you could honestly pull off. I could see a Wolverine look. I feel like you definitely need to rock that one year for Halloween. Get the white beater, get the claws, little fake cigar.
I thought about it. It'd be cool. I don't have the aggression in me for it. Unless you get me on the basketball court, then it's there. I mean, you've seen me on the basketball court. I'm a pretty aggressive guy there. But
yeah, you are. We've played basketball together. I'm not so much anymore. I don't even know the last time I played basketball. It's been a minute, but yeah.
Fly out here to North Carolina. You can hop on our church team.
Oh my gosh, I don't think my knees could hold it. Well, hey, so we're going to dive right in. We don't have much I don't think there's much in the way of other MCU news that happened this week. It was a pretty quiet week for the MCU by and large, aside from just hearing things about Wakanda Forever coming up. And obviously, we were just talking right before we hit record. And I know for me, this is the most excited I've been about a movie for the MCU in probably since Spider-Man No Way Home. And if I'm being honest, there might even be an excitement level above that for me, just because I do hold the first Black Panther movie so dearly, and that is a top 5 MCU movie for me, as is evidenced by the Killmonger shirt I wear like every other podcast and the hat that I have every podcast. I love the original movie, so I've been looking forward to this ever since I first saw the first one, and obviously Chadwick being gone is a huge bummer, but I've heard nothing but amazing things for this movie, so I'm so excited. I'm so pumped to talk about it and just talk about Black Panther in general.
Yeah, Black Panther's top 5 for me. Probably third or fourth easy.
Nice.
Yeah, he could slip into top 3 easy for me.
I didn't know where that ranked for you.
Yeah, Black Panther's one of my favorites, especially MCU. Just the way Chadwick portrayed him was
Perfect.
awesome. He quickly climbed the ranks for me. Like, I always thought he was cool because back in the day, I think it was like an old like cartoon Avengers movie. I couldn't even remember the name of the Avengers. Like, it was Avengers something.
Yeah.
But it was a cartoon of it, and I just remember specifically, I was like, that Black Panther guy, he's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool character there.
Yeah, he's awesome. So yeah, like we talked about, let's dive into talking about the first Black Panther before we dive into the stuff with Wakanda Forever. We're just going to talk about our favorite moments from the original Black Panther, some of the things that just even to this day we love and hold so dearly. Talk about Chadwick Boseman and just kind of what he's meant to us as fans, and have a little discussion about the recast T'Challa, because that's obviously been a big hot topic among just MCU circles about whether or not that character should ever be recast. Obviously, they're not now, but whether they do it down the road. And then talk about Killmonger a little bit, because Killmonger is my second favorite villain in the MCU. And I really do think, for a lot of people, I know we've talked and you have him ranked really highly as well. And I just think
Top
he
4,
is
probably.
Yeah, he's an all-time great villain in the MCU, and they do his character so well. And so a little tribute to him and some wishful thinking that he ends up in this movie somehow. But let's talk about Black Panther. So what for you are some of your favorite moments from the original movie?
One of my favorites. I mean, not from specifically from the original movie. I mean, it's in the original movie. It's a big part of it. Is him or Black T'Challa and M'Baku's like relationship, and that whole arc.
Yeah, that's a fantastic arc.
Yeah, you see it in the beginning, like in Black Panther, and then you see it in Infinity War and Endgame, and it's like I'm like, oh, this is really cool
Yeah.
because M'Baku, at first I'm like, dude, I hate this guy.
Hey,
But
you
now I'm
do.
like, okay, like he's got T'Challa's back, and like honestly, like I would love to see him like maybe take up the mantle for like a second,
That would be
like
cool.
out of in like a heroic moment sort of thing. But that's always been one of my favorites, is like such like a relationship, like a brotherhood sort of thing, that I was like, that is one of my top favorite
Yeah.
T'Challa moments for sure.
I feel like especially in Infinity War, like you really see the fruits of that friendship and relationship get bore in
Right.
that movie because now they've been through the events of Black Panther together, and now they're going through another event in Infinity War where Wakanda is once again under attack. And this time they're defending it together from the jump. Obviously, they defend together at the end of Black Panther, but at the start of it, M'Baku wanted no part of the whole Killmonger situation because when
Hmm.
T'Challa even first went to him and asked if he'd help, he said no. And then, of course, he does end up showing up. And then, yeah, to see like they're standing side by side in Infinity War was really cool. And yeah, it's definitely a bummer that we're not going to get to see it develop any further because
Right.
I mean, yeah, that was really special, and they just
I
had
just
great
yeah.
chemistry.
Yeah, those two actors, yeah, like you just said, they have great chemistry. They're both really funny.
They are,
I've seen, Chadwick Boseman in other movies like 42 and or wait, 42 is the Jackie Robinson movie,
yeah,
right? Yeah. Yeah, that one, like he's great in that one.
yeah.
And so,
Yeah, absolutely. I think my favorite moment is so for me it's always going to be when T'Challa returns to the Great Mound after everyone thought he was dead. So at that point where Killmonger is sending out the ships and they're getting ready to launch their attack on basically the rest of the world, and T'Challa shoots down the one ship and everybody looks out into the distance to see what it is, and then he just like emerges from the rubble with this Black Panther suit, and then the
right.
helmet comes off and the music hits, and the score, which I've heard for Wakanda Forever, the score is equally as great as the first one was, which
Oh
is great
yeah.
because the first one won an Oscar for best score,
Yeah.
and rightfully so. But yeah, every time I watch that moment, it gives me chills and makes me tear up. And I'm sure we're gonna watch Black Panther sometime this week before we go see the movie. But I'm sure once I watch it now, after the fact, it's gonna hit me even harder. Obviously, knowing that he's not here,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite moments. I know you have a bit of a hot take as far as one of your other favorite moments, though.
Yeah, so this, and I totally understand why this gets hated on. I do. I really do.
Okay,
I
that's
get
fair at least.
why. So the fight scene between T'Challa and Killmonger, quick little side note, which suit do you like better between T'Challa and Killmonger?
I mean, I feel like I have to go with T'Challa. Like I feel like that's the answer. But I mean,
Really?
yeah,
I think
they're both so
Killmonger's the
cool though.
sweet,
Killmonger's
because
is cool. The gold,
yeah, in the beginning, like he almost chose that one. And I was like,
yeah.
I remember I was like, dang it, he should pick the gold one. That would have been sweet. Bling out. But anyway, yeah, this one is very, I think it's underrated, but it's also hated on, and I understand why. It's the fight scene between T'Challa and Killmonger.
And you're
And
talking the one at the end, right? You're not talking the Warrior Falls fight scene. You're talking like the final battle,
yeah,
correct?
where they're
Okay.
where they're like falling in
In
the
the train,
vibranium
like the
shaft, yeah,
yeah,
and the train and all that. Like I totally get it. Like the visual effects there are worse than She-Hulk's.
dude, they're bad.
And it looks like a video game,
Yes,
but I'm like, I'm still there. Like the way they did it to me, or like I just let my imagination roll with it, and I'm
yeah.
like, that looks really, it just looks cool, and I think it adds more like depth to the ending there.
The idea was
But
cool. The execution was
was
poor.
poor.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Hmm.
personally, yeah, I get what they're trying to do with the vibranium suit thing because yeah, if these dudes are just fighting with vibranium suits the entire time, then neither of them are going to incapacitate the other one because these suits are basically indestructible. And so I understand the purpose behind going down there because you have to have a reason why they would maybe have their suits rendered ineffective. So that makes perfect sense. I just yeah, again, I feel like it was too tall of a task. Or maybe not. Maybe they just got lazy with the CGI. I'm not sure. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
By
yeah,
and
I feel like
large,
that would be a little bit of a hard task to do. So
Yeah.
like I have a little bit of sympathy there, but I totally understand why people are like, "No, that scene sucks." And I'm like, "Yeah, but like imagine like if they would have done it really well, that would be considered one of the best fight scenes like of all time."
It would, but then see that's my problem is I'm like, but imagine if they would have and it could have. You know, it's exactly how I look at Thor: Love and Thunder. Like Thor: Love
Right.
and Thunder could have been one of the greatest MCU
Gore.
movies ever made, and instead we got the dumpster fire that it ended up becoming. No disrespect to anybody who likes that. You like what you like. So if that's you, good on you. And I have no hate, but I just can't rock with that one. But yeah, no, I mean, I do agree. There's some cool moments in that fight. I love the knife flip when T'Challa ends up getting the best of Killmonger. And, I just love Killmonger's character because even in that moment, like he just gets stabbed in the chest and like Killmonger's first thing is just like, hell of a move, man. Like he just has such respect for someone who's a great fighter and a great warrior. And I think when T'Challa comes back and then faces off against Killmonger again and beats him this time, I think Killmonger essentially just respected T'Challa in that
Yeah.
moment because he's like, okay, like you're a real one. You're someone who, you should have been dead and somehow you're not, and you came back and you're better than you were before. And I got to tip my hat to you. And then obviously the scene when he takes Killmonger up to the top of that overlook where they see all of Wakanda and see the sunset. That's one of my other favorite moments because that's just such a cool moment. And then obviously, really good moment between Killmonger and T'Challa as Killmonger is starting to pass, and T'Challa offers to revive him or not revive, but save him. And
Right.
Killmonger just is basically, like, why so you guys can lock me up now, like bury me in the ocean with my ancestors because they knew that death was better in bondage. And that is such a powerful
Right.
statement by him in that movie. And it was so true to his character too, because that's exactly how his character would have been the entire movie. Like he would not have accepted that saving just so he could be locked up. He'd rather, do what he did for his cause. And I think even he knew in that moment that he had gotten through to T'Challa and in part accomplished what he wanted to accomplish. And that's part of why I love it. And we'll talk about this with Killmonger in a little bit, but that's part of why I love him so much. And part of why I think the Black Panther movie is so good because you have one of the best villains, in my opinion. But then I believe you have one of the single greatest, maybe the greatest superhero arc in a single movie with T'Challa. You see the
Right.
way that he grows from the start, where he's this reluctant king and he's not sure about his ability. He's not sure about his leadership. And he doesn't want Wakanda to have anything to do with the rest of the world. And then Killmonger comes in, and his whole thing is that he's been completely just, rejected and neglected by Wakanda. His own dad was killed because of people in Wakanda. And he's looking at it as, well, the country that's supposed to love me and has all this technology to help me has actually abandoned me because they're selfish. And to see that transformation of T'Challa throughout the course of the movie to the point where he ends up building the different the help centers around the world
Hmm.
is so cool. And I think that's part of what makes Killmonger such a good villain, because how often does the villain actually influence the values and the morals of a hero?
Right.
And I mean, I feel like a lot of times it doesn't happen. A lot of times it's just, they're facing off, they don't see it eye to eye, and eventually the one overpowers the other. And in this case, yes, T'Challa overpowered Killmonger, but Killmonger still worked his way in there and influenced what ended up happening with
Yeah.
Wakanda forever.
It was like Killmonger, you weren't wrong. You were just going about it the wrong
Yeah, yeah.
way.
His
Yeah.
motives were right, but yeah, dude was a little bit extreme in his methods.
Yeah. He was like, we gotta get this done now,
Yeah.
sort of thing. But
Well, not even that. He wanted to just go and like outright
yeah.
attack the rest of the world. So yeah, probably not the right way to go about that. But okay, so let's just talk about Chadwick Boseman for a second, because we mentioned he's one of the greatest actors in Hollywood, and obviously his death was such a tremendous loss for not just Hollywood and obviously people that knew him more than us because we didn't know him, but for fans, it hurts so much, not just because he was a great actor, but because from everything that we hear, especially after the fact, it just sounds like he was such a phenomenal, genuine person, which doesn't always happen. Sometimes you get really good actors and they're crap people, but it sounds like Chadwick was both, and I mean, I feel like he just left such an incredible legacy, and it sounds like this upcoming movie was done with so much just passion and emotion because at the forefront of their mind the entire time is that like they just want to do whatever they can to honor him.
Hmm.
I'm just so excited to see that. But let's talk about some of his best roles and movies that we just truly loved him in because he had some good ones. And you mentioned one of them already, 42. That was the first movie I
Yeah.
ever saw him in, and I instantly fell in love with him there.
Yeah, I mean 42 is truly really the only other movie like I've seen him in that wasn't Marvel. All my association with Chadwick Boseman is essentially just with Marvel.
Yeah.
So, I mean, first coming on the scene in Civil War, like I was like, "Oh, like this dude's serious." He's, and Civil War came out
Oh man, that would have been
relatively
like,
around the same time as 42
yeah, yeah. I mean, it wasn't too
because
far after.
yeah, because I remember thinking like because I remember seeing 42 and I remember thinking I was like, hey, that's Jackie Robinson right up there. He's playing Black Panther. That's cool. And I was like, that would 42 made me cry, but like that,
Yeah, same.
so does Rocky. So I don't know if that says anything about me, but
Nothing wrong with crying during Rocky.
Rocky's the best. Rocky's top is my favorite movie of all time,
It's
but
up there.
that's neither here nor there. But uh yeah, Chadwick, he was an amazing actor. Yeah, like you said, I've seen him in interviews with people. He seems like just a stand-up guy. The way his peers talk about him,
Yeah,
especially at Marvel, I saw an interview with Benedict Cumberbatch, and just the way he was talking about Chadwick, I was like, man, this dude sounds like the coolest guy on earth. Like I
yeah,
would like definitely is like one of those guys where I'd be like, if I had to hang out with one of the celebrities for a day, he would be like top three
yeah.
easy.
It just sounds like he was so genuine, which you don't always get, and that's really cool. One of the moments that I always remember that I feel like just reflects that, and you could see that was I can remember when the first Black Panther came out, and Jimmy Fallon did this thing where they were at a premiere, like an early screening of the movie for people, and these people had been invited to it, and afterwards, I guess part of their uh, deal for getting to see this movie early is they had to then come in front of a camera and talk about what the movie meant to them and what the character of Black Panther meant to them. And they were talking in front of a camera, and then behind the camera, there's a curtain. And so they can't see what's behind the curtain. And as they were talking into the camera about what the movie and what the character meant to them, Chadwick would eventually come out from behind the curtain and like say something in response to what it was that they were saying and surprise them. And like yeah, it was just so you got to look it up if you've never seen it because it's one of just the
Yeah.
most wholesome videos out there. And again, it's with some celebrities. You can see them interacting with people, and the interactions just feel so forced. And you're like, yeah, I can tell this is not their forte. And with him, he just genuinely seemed to love that interaction and appreciate the
Right.
fans, which is just really cool. 21 Bridges. You've never seen that movie. That's one that you need to watch. I don't know what it streams on, but that's another movie that he was in that was just phenomenal. He's a detective, I believe, and the movie is basically about these cops end up getting killed, and he's in New York, and he's trying to figure out who did this, and he ends up uncovering all kind of corruption, and he's unable to catch these guys. And so in order to catch these guys within the time frame that they need to, he shuts down all 21 bridges that go into New York City in order to
Mm,
basically close the city off completely and find these dudes. And it's
that's
just a
pretty
good movie. It's
cool.
just a good action movie. There's some really good twists in it. Yeah, highly entertaining. I haven't seen the one with him as James Brown though, and I've heard that's good. I think that's called Get On Up.
Oh
And
yeah, I've seen a commercial for that. That does look good.
yeah, that's one that I've always meant to see. I just haven't gotten around to it, but someday for sure.
Yeah. I'll have to check out 21 Bridges out to see what it's streaming on.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure where that's at, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
One of the funniest moments for me. Have you ever seen the Black Jeopardy skit that he does on SNL?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh,
I've
dude.
heard I think I've seen like a clip from it on like TikTok or something like that. but I haven't
I
watched the full thing.
I need to send you that as soon as we get off of this call because that is one of the funniest SNL skits, period. Not just because it's Chadwick Boseman, but it's hilarious. And I don't know if you've ever seen any of the other Black Jeopardy skits where Kenan Thompson is the host that they do on SNL, but they are all of them are funny. But the one with Chadwick Boseman, I promise you, you will die laughing. It's so good
Yeah.
because he does it as Black Panther. So it was at a time when Black Panther was
So he
coming
does
out. So
as
he is actually T'Challa, and so they pull him into Black Jeopardy, and he's just so out of place, and it's hilarious. You got to see it. I'll definitely send that
yeah,
to you.
yeah, you got to send that one to me. I do remember another favorite one of mine is when the whole Marvel cast did the Brady Bunch song.
That was
I
good.
thought that was yeah, that cracked me up. I thought that was really good.
I see that recirculate on TikTok, but probably about once a month. I feel like it just pops up out of nowhere.
Really?
Yeah,
I haven't seen it since like last Thanksgiving.
really.
It'll probably pop up soon. For some reason, that's when it circulated for me was Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah,
So I'm sure it'll pop back up again for me soon.
it's fantastic.
Because that's my whole TikTok feed today was just Black Panther stuff.
Yeah, it's all it is. Keeping on the subject of T'Challa, so we talked about the recast T'Challa movement, and before Wakanda Forever had finished production, it was obviously a huge push, and I mean it was one of those extremely divided topics. You were either, for the most part, you were either 100% recast T'Challa or you were 100% don't recast him, and obviously they went the route of not recasting him. But
Yeah.
just kind of curious because
Well,
just because they chose not to recast them this time doesn't mean they can, especially now the multiverse is open. So it's
right.
definitely the possibility is always there. It's Marvel;
Possibility.
they could figure it out.
Do
Yeah,
you
just kind of
know?
curious where you fall on that.
Well, before I answer, do you know, did they have to do a rewrite of this movie because of
They did. They
Chadwick?
did a
They did.
complete rewrite.
Okay.
Rewrite?
Yeah.
Rewrite, yeah.
Rewrite.
Because so I actually just read an article today. Ryan Coogler was talking, and he was talking about his last phone call that he had with Chadwick Boseman, and it was the purpose of the phone call was because he had just finished writing the script and wanted to see if Chadwick wanted to look it over prior to him sending it off to Marvel for like approval and them to check it out. And Chadwick said no. And obviously now we know why, but Chadwick told him, I don't want to interfere with, yours and Marvel's decision making. I trust you, send it off. And Chadwick obviously knew it was like 2 weeks before his death that he wasn't going to be a part of that script. And so it was just super sad to see. But
Yeah.
from Ryan Coogler's done some interviews this week where he's talked about what that movie would be like. And the focus of the movie was going to be focusing on T'Challa post blip and dealing with the fallout of the blip. And he said it was going to be similar to Wakanda Forever, what it is now in some ways, because it was still going to deal a lot with the topic of grief and mourning, but it was just going to be from a different standpoint because it was going to be about T'Challa grieving and mourning the loss of 5 years and as a leader and as a ruler with all the responsibility that he has, trying to figure out how he reconciles that and moves on and continues to carry the mantle when he's lost 5 years of his life and was unable to protect his people. And yeah, I mean, obviously that didn't end up being the case, but
Yeah.
Namor was also always going to be a part of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I
That
did
was
know that.
that was
Yeah.
something that's always been set in stone. And there was even supposed to be initially a post-credit scene in Black Panther 1 that was going to tease Namor, and then they decided against it. But yeah, so even way back in the first movie, they knew that the sequel was going to have Namor in it.
Yeah. But yeah, back to your first question if I think they should recast him. Personally, no, not the T'Challa character that Chadwick played. If they want to continue a Black Panther like that, they should do it through like a son of
Okay.
his or something like that. Like personally, I wouldn't even want a variant to come in to take over because I just feel like Chadwick did such a good job with that character that it would I don't think it would be a disrespect. Like I feel like he would want someone to carry on that mantle, but like it'd be cool if like maybe Kevin Feige decided, hey, this dude is gonna be one of those ones that just he's an absolute he like doesn't have a variant out there.
Yeah.
You know, Like I think that would be cool. And if you want to carry on the Black Panther legacy, do it through his son or like personally, I wish they didn't kill off Killmonger because I would love to see a redemption arc there where he takes
Yeah.
over and he's like, okay, like I get what this guy was doing now and I see his point of view and take off from there. But
Yeah, I've always been a
they
part of Team Killmonger, and it's always been something that I've never expected them to do. Like I knew it was a long shot, but
right.
I was with you. Where like, how cool of a journey would that be if he has a step into the role of Black Panther, and but he's still a very very flawed Black Panther. Like they're still trying to deal with the fact that this dude was pretty inherently not inherently evil because obviously he was corrupted by the system and in a big way corrupted by Wakanda
Yeah.
and so but he definitely had some very evil methods that he went
Hmm.
about things and but so trying to deal with that where he's still got this edginess to him and he's still the Killmonger
Hmm.
that was in Wakanda killing people and wanting to go out and attack people all over the world but also wrestling with now he's got this sense of morality that he's also trying to balance at the same time. Yeah, I think that could have been so cool, but I
Right.
never expected it, but it'd be neat.
So as like a variant, because we know it's possible now, if we see T'Challa and Black Panther again, who would you want as like the actor to play them?
Oh
And
man, that's actually a great question. I gotta be honest, I literally haven't even given that an ounce of thought. And I don't know, like just thinking off the top of my head, I don't know who I would pick. I'd have to actually just sit down and look at some actors, but yeah, I
I
don't
have
really.
one off the top of my head. He recently played in the movie Amsterdam, which I don't know if I'm just dumb. I was not able to sit through the whole movie. John David Washington.
Okay. Yeah, I do know who
Um,
that is. Yeah, I feel like he'd be a good fit.
yeah, I feel like he would do. I think he would do that well. He's the guy in Tenet.
Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah,
movie was easily the most confusing movie I've ever seen in my life.
yeah. But another thought. Do you know who Michael Ealy is?
Yes, yeah, I do know who Michael Ealy is.
For some reason, I feel like he would kill an older, wiser T'Challa, who is
Yeah,
a variant from a different, universe where he was Black Panther for a 10-year time, and
I could see
I
that.
I think he'd be pretty dope with that. I think he would have the coolest suit too for some reason. He's just a cool dude.
He is a cool dude. Yeah, so for me, the recast T'Challa campaign, I've actually been on both sides of it. So initially, I was not on board with recasting T'Challa, and I just felt like, yeah, it was one of those things where Chadwick did it, and if anyone else were to step in after Chadwick and do it, then it would maybe not tarnish because that's not the right word, but just it just wouldn't be the same. He's the only Black Panther. So, in the same way
Right.
that we look at Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, the same way we look at Charlie Cox as Daredevil. Like it felt like,
Chris Evans, Captain
yeah,
America, Chris
T'Challa is
Hemsworth,
the or
Thor. Yeah.
Chadwick is the only T'Challa. And then I watched a video a while back of somebody and it was a black content creator, and he was talking about why he felt like they should recast T'Challa, and he gave such fantastic points after I watched the video. I was like, yeah, he's right. At least in my opinion, I felt like he was right. And basically, he talked about it from the sense of that for black people historically in pop culture, there haven't been a ton of iconic characters. We have a ton of white iconic characters in superhero genre and really any genre, right? Like it's just overrun. But the iconic black characters are much fewer and farther between. And he talked about Black Panther obviously being one of the most iconic superhero character for black
Right.
people, but just one of the most iconic fictional characters
Right.
uh, in general. And if you choose not to recast T'Challa, then you take away the just the opportunity for young up and coming black men who are rising stars in Hollywood to assume that role much. And he compared it to the way that we look at Batman. Batman is just such an iconic role that yes, there are iconic Batmen or people that have played Batman like Christian Bale and Robert Pattinson, and they have each done their own take that has been so fascinating and unique. And at the same time, we always look forward to the next Batman because we're like, okay, I can't wait to see how, this next person portrays
Mm,
this iconic character. Same with like the Joker. Obviously, Marvel's a little different because within DC, those are different movies, different universes. And so there is a little bit of a difference there. But when he said that, I was like, that's actually like,
that does make
that's
sense. Yeah.
actually a really, really, really strong point. Now, again, how they would go about it, I don't know. I mean, it'd have to be a variant, I feel like. And I still, I don't know. Obviously, it didn't recast T'Challa. I still don't know how I would have felt with recasting T'Challa in this movie, and maybe I would have been okay with it. But one of the things that he also said too is like, why is it that we were okay recasting Thunderbolt Ross just months after he died, and we didn't recast T'Challa well over a year after he passed? And I'm like, hey, yeah, that's a question I can't answer because I don't know.
Yeah.
It's actually a solid point. What's his name? William Hurt is an iconic Thunderbolt Ross, and obviously Thunderbolt Ross isn't quite the icon that T'Challa is. But by the same token, I mean, Thunderbolt Ross has a movie coming up that's literally named after him, and so they could have very easily just killed his character off and had it still be the Thunderbolts, but it was just in kind of the
Memoriam for him.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of like there with Wakanda Forever, and they chose to recast him. I'm like, it's a good point. Either way, though, I mean, I trust Kevin Feige, and I feel like Kevin Feige and Ryan Coogler
And
all.
Kevin we trust, and Ryan
Yeah,
Coogler we
yeah, I
trust.
do. I want to see Ryan Coogler do so many more movies. There's been rumors of him. I don't know if it's
Doing
rumors. I think
Kang.
I think it's just been fan casting that people have wanted him to direct Secret Wars, and I'm just like, that would be so sick because I love him as a director. The other thing too with the recast T'Challa campaign that's worth noting is I believe I'd have to double check on this, but I do believe that Chadwick himself said he would want them to recast T'Challa, and so I mean obviously he doesn't call the shots, but
Right.
that's up to the creators to do that, but something else to take into account. Either way
Yeah.
though,
Another one that
I'm
just
so
popped in my
excited.
head is the guy from The Good Place. I forget the
I
actor's
can't remember
name.
his name, and it's something I can't pronounce, but yeah, he's so phenomenal. He would be good. I feel like it'd be really interesting to see him in a role like that,
Mm-hmm.
without a
Because
doubt.
there have been rumors he's gonna be in the MCU,
I have
but
seen
I
that. Yeah,
forget for what.
yeah,
Um,
that would be
oh, what
great.
was that for? What was the?
I don't remember. We'll have to look it up.
Ah,
But
yeah.
yeah. So we'll see. Really excited to see where they go. We already kind of talked about Killmonger, so we won't really go any more into him because we've kind of touched on everything that we were going to touch on regarding just Killmonger and where he ranks
Hmm.
and what makes him such a good villain. But so let's just hop right into theories about Wakanda Forever,
Yeah.
because obviously a couple people have seen this movie, but the rest of the world we haven't,
Has
and
not.
so there are a lot of different questions that need answered about this movie, and I think most of them will get answered, but maybe some of them we won't. So the biggest one, and the one that I mean, I'm assuming we're going to get this answer right from the jump, is how will T'Challa have passed in Wakanda Forever? Like, what are they going to use as the event of his death? Is it going to be
Yeah.
will his death be the thing that kind of spurs on this war with Talokan? Or will it be something else entirely? Will it be that the character himself got sick, much like Chadwick did? Will it be, just
I
some kind
think
of
yeah.
accident? Who knows? I am curious to see because it's definitely going to be something that they will, like, no doubt have put a lot of thought into, because
Hmm.
they don't want it to just be, very shallow.
Yeah. The way I feel like Marvel creatives might think about this and go in this direction is if it's originally like Ryan Coogler originally wanted it to be him dealing with the effects of the blip. We still don't have like a whole lot of like I mean we have some like of mental effects from the blip and like quite literally physical like people have been displaced and
Yeah,
that's pretty much what Captain or Falcon and Winter Soldier was like
yeah,
um dealing with, but what did that do to the people in the MCU like physically, like did it
yeah.
mess
Did
with
it
their
have some kind of
genes?
effect?
Like
Yeah,
is this how they're bringing mutants into the MCU, or are they doing it via the blip? And like maybe
maybe there's a negative effect
T'Challa,
too. Like,
yeah, maybe
we've talked about.
T'Challa just his mutation or he had a mutation and just his body just did not accept it, and that's kind of what
Mm.
happened. Or,
Yeah, that actually could be a
you know,
really, really
it could be
plausible way.
a disease that just, something Wakanda just can't fix. Like it's just something that they can't do. And
Yeah.
yeah, I personally I don't think that's going to be what the war will be. I think the death of T'Challa will be. I mean, I feel like it's known that Shuri's going to be taking up the mantle for the time being.
At least at some point in this movie, yeah,
It's
and we'll talk about that.
yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely she's
I
one
feel
of
like
them. There's
it's
no doubt.
yeah, I feel like it's gonna be the main motivator for her to like kick it into high gear.
Yeah,
That's what it's gonna be for her.
like the Lakers with Kobe of the year, they won a title. Like this is going to be the driving force behind everything
Exactly.
Wakanda does, what they fight for.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like I mean, I have a like because we know Riri Williams is supposed to be an Ironheart. She's an MIT student, so they're all them MIT students, they're smart. They're always trying to do something to make the world better. And I my theory is that she does something that messes with something in the ocean,
Hmm.
and it messes up the Atlanteans pretty good.
Yeah,
Like it does something destructive by accident, and
I could
they're
see that.
they're on a rampage mission at this point. But I also think that the Atlanteans probably have vibranium too.
They
Um,
do. I actually saw a trailer today that includes a clip of Shuri talking about what I believe was Namor's armor, and she talks about
oh
how
yeah,
his armor is covered in vibranium, and so yeah, somehow, some way, and I mean it makes sense. They're so close to Wakanda, it makes sense that they would somehow also have access to vibranium
yeah,
as
and
well.
so yeah, my whole theory is that like the Atlanteans were once, people somewhere, Wakanda's located in like where what would be our what Ethiopia,
Somewhere around there, yeah,
something along those lines, but it's close enough to the ocean where it's like, oh, that meteor that hit Wakanda, like,
yeah,
probably parts of it hit the ocean
could have
too, and
had some
like,
adverse effect, yeah.
like, and I also think I don't think they have the heart-shaped herb, but I think they have something similar to it which drove them into the water and allows them to be underwater, but I don't think it allows them to come back up, if that makes sense. I don't think they can breathe other
Yeah,
than Namor himself.
yeah, because in clips and trailers of the movie, you see it. There's some
They've
kind of
got
breathing apparatus that they have around them,
right,
that around their face, that yeah, you're assuming allows them to be uh, up on the surface. Yeah,
right.
I think there could be definitely be some to that theory. I'm curious to see as to what her involvement will be in the film and how she comes to be in Wakanda. And so that would make sense if yeah, she was,
Who?
especially Riri.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
so that would make sense if she, yeah, as an MIT
Because
student, maybe as a part of like an internship or something, or maybe just an opportunity that she's earned, she gets to go to Wakanda to just shadow Shuri or shadow somebody who,
that,
yeah, just their technological staff. And yeah, at some point maybe she's working on a project and something goes awry, or maybe she's just there for a reason like that, and in that at that time the whole stuff with Talokan ends up happening, and she just kind of gets caught in the crossfire and has to put her mind to work and create the Ironheart suit because she needs
yeah,
to find a way to fight.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so one of my biggest questions about this movie, and this has spurred on from the trailer, is that obviously we talked about how we think Shuri is the Black Panther, or at least to some degree, and I'm like almost ready to bet my house on that. But there is another Black Panther in one of the trailers, and it was the, I think, the second trailer that got released about a month ago. There's a
hmm
shot of the one Black Panther, and in the background, in the very corner, you can see a suit of someone else in a Black Panther suit. And so, unless Marvel's screwing with us, which they could be, they do this all the time. There very well could be two Black Panthers at some point,
Maybe
and
we're getting a variant too.
could be
For
a
all we know.
variant. Yeah, I'm so curious as to who this is. I feel like Nakia makes a lot of sense. I mean, we already know that she's got kind of that warrior spirit, and she's tough, and she just seems like she would really fit that, and she has already like the ideology of someone who should be the
Right.
Black Panther, and so it wouldn't surprise me if it was her. I would love to see M'Baku. We talked about him already. I don't think
Yeah.
that he's gonna end up being the one, and
Probably not,
based on
but
the shot in the trailer, it didn't seem like it's a like big dude, and I feel like
yeah.
he's pretty large, and it would be pretty obvious if he was the one in the suit. So that's definitely a question that obviously we're gonna have answered, but I'm so curious about because I know I've heard from multiple people who've seen this movie that there are some twists and turns in the movie that you're just not going to expect at all, and so that gets me really excited. And I feel like that's probably one of them. I could see it being a thing where Nakia is maybe talking to like Shuri because Nakia is the older one and more mature out of the two, and maybe Nakia just kind of sees it being her responsibility to take on Black Panther. Like she's the older one. She, maybe she had married T'Challa in between the time that had passed before he ended
Hmm.
up passing. And maybe she's just like, this is my responsibility to take this on, and tells Shuri, like, no, like we need you on the technological side. Please don't get involved in this. And maybe she's fighting. And all of a sudden, like Shuri just shows up and she's in a suit and she just completely disregards Nakia. And now there's two Black Panthers and fighting side by side. And I feel like that would fit
That'd be
Shuri's
cool.
character to perfection because she's definitely someone who like just doesn't really listen to others.
Hmm.
She's so smart that she's just like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. I know better. And I don't know. I don't know if it's
And
going to be something like that.
yeah, she would also fit with like a Young Avengers type thing where
Yeah.
like I feel like if we ever get I don't know if it's confirmed of a Young Avengers, but like we're
I mean,
getting
the
those
pieces are in
characters.
place.
Yeah. But they're all like I feel like it's all gonna, they all went through their own rough thing, but they're
Yeah.
all gonna have some arrogance after it
Yeah.
and think they're a little bit untouchable, which is where their downfall will be, which would fit that narrative for sure.
Yeah.
Personally, I think Nakia and T'Challa have a son, a secret son.
Another question I have is Namor the real villain in this movie? Because my thinking is that he's not. The actor, and I cannot pronounce his name, Tenoch Huerta,
I
I think might be the pronunciation of his name.
I'll let
But
you try to do that.
yeah,
I don't want to get
I think that's it.
slandered.
I might have messed that up, but hopefully I didn't mess it up too poorly. But I know he said in an interview that he doesn't believe Namor is a villain. That he believes that Namor is kind of an anti-hero or misunderstood.
Personally, I don't think that Namor is going to be the villain. I think it's going to be more of three parties, and it's going to be kind of similar to Killmonger's. Like it's he's going to have his reasons that you're like, oh, I totally see that. But they're going to be a little on the extreme side, and there's going to be a third party there that's like kind of like, okay, if you guys would stop doing this stuff, this wouldn't be happening, you know?
Yeah. See, I think it'll be even less of that because I don't think my assumption is it's not going to be extreme at all. One thing about Namor is that he is extremely and fiercely loyal to his people as a ruler. And I definitely think you're on the right track when you talked about somehow something happened and Wakanda ended up doing something to aggravate or tick off the
Hmm.
Talocans, and so he's just defending his people and their honor, and
Right.
or maybe there's some kind of a misunderstanding or something, and he's just fighting for his nation, but he happens to be fighting the people that we see as the protagonists. Therefore, he's technically the
Right.
villain. Whereas Killmonger, I feel like you could definitely look at it and you're like, okay, like yeah, motives were like pretty right, but he was still a villain. Like he was still.
Yeah. See where you're coming
Dang
from,
it.
but you're not going about it the right way.
Yeah, I'm gonna repeat that part because it's a stupid 10-minute thing. Whereas with Killmonger, it was his motives were right for the most part, but you still looked at him and he was like definitely a villain
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
wrong in a lot of what he did. I think with Namor in the comics, he's always been an anti-hero. Him and Wakanda have always had some history, but I think that the villain might end up being a character named Atuma. And Atuma is one of the Talokans who he has kind of like a shark bone helmet, like hammerhead shark bone shaped helmet in the trailer, and you only see him for like a very split second. He's jumping out of the water, but I did a little bit of research on him, and he's actually someone who is an enemy or a rival of Namor's in the comics. He's not an ally. And
Oh, okay.
his whole deal is that he was actually banished and exiled from, in the comics it's Atlantis, in the movie it's going to be Talokan, but he was
Hmm.
banished from Atlantis at a young age because of his brutal and aggressive nature, and then he ends up being a part of a tribe known as the Skarka, and that whole tribe gets exiled and banished from Atlantis because they're trying to overthrow the royal family and conquer the old city. So kind of think of them like the Jabari
Hmm.
almost. And so this guy Atuma believes that he should be the true ruler of the Atlantean or Talokan people. And I could see it making sense because Namor, remember, Namor is a mutant. So Namor is not like full Atlantean. Namor is half human, half Atlantean, and becomes a mutant.
Yeah.
And they're all
He's got
blue,
winged
and
feet.
he has like just a darker complected skin, but he's not blue.
Yeah.
So
And he's got winged feet,
yeah, yeah,
which that
that's so sick.
that looked cool in the trailer.
Yeah,
The visual effects look really good in this movie. I don't think we're gonna. Hopefully, we won't be slipping on that in
no,
this one.
no. So yeah, I don't think he's a villain. I just know that I'm so excited. I've heard people talk about the fact that he is one of the best parts of the movie, and obviously people have been waiting for him for a long time.
Yeah,
And
he's isn't he one of the oldest
he is the second oldest
Marvel
character for
characters?
Marvel, the first being the Human Torch. But yeah, Namor has been there since the very beginning. So, like, literally one of the most iconic, biggest characters. They just haven't been able to do a movie with him because the movie rights were owned by Universal from the 90s on. And so they've only just recently reacquired these movie rights to Namor and
Hmm.
been able to do stuff with him. And so, yeah, little backstory on Namor. He helped found the Illuminati that we saw in Multiverse of Madness. He at one point ends up like having allegiances with Doctor Doom, and I'm not 100% sure what all that's about, but I do know that him and Doctor Doom kind of like partner up at one point.
Hmm.
And I know that he was also a part of the original Defenders team, the team that we associate with like Daredevil and Luke Cage and all those people.
Oh,
But he was actually one of the original members of that team. And so, yeah, and he's always been he's ridden that fine line of hero, anti-hero. And I think it always just comes down to how does he feel like his people and his nation are threatened? Like if he feels like his nation's threatened, he's immediately your enemy. If it's anything that has to do with
yeah.
him and
It's
his
kind of the
people,
Black Adam of the
yeah,
DC, and in terms of how he is
yeah,
seen as a hero or a villain.
yeah. One thing that I have so high on my wish list, and I'm trying not to get my hopes up, but this is something that I do kind of believe could happen. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, but I really do feel like we could see Killmonger in some capacity in this movie, even if it's just
Oh
in
yeah.
the ancestral plane and Shuri as she's trying to figure out how to navigate this whole ordeal with becoming the Black Panther. Maybe she goes to see T'Challa and instead it's Killmonger. And
Yep,
she's
that's
just like
exactly what I think's
she's
gonna happen.
surprised and she has a conversation with him. Uh I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I hope we get to see him again.
Yeah, the way you just described it, I think that's exactly how it's gonna happen. I think she's I mean, I think the heart-shaped herb's gonna come back in this in some way or form, but it's gonna be a synthetic version that Shuri makes, so it's not gonna be like the
Oh,
exact same one.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
because that's another
because
question is yeah, how's the Black Panther going to get the powers? Because the heart shaped herb was
right.
destroyed,
That's that's what
seemingly.
I'm saying. I feel like the Atlanteans are gonna have something that is gonna help contribute to her
Hmm.
bringing that back. So it's like something
Oh,
that's close to the original or better,
yeah.
or at least on par. So we can still have the same powers of the Black Panther. But anyway, I feel like it's gonna take her to the ancestral plane where she's gonna expect to see T'Challa, but it's gonna be Killmonger, and he's gonna drop some words of wisdom because
Yeah.
Michael B. Jordan is in this movie. Like it's
I think, I
Or
mean, a long time ago, they had said that he was probably going to be in the movie, but like even just looking at IMDb, he's not in that cast list. Now, again, they
mhm,
don't reveal
you
everybody
never
from the
know.
cast list, right? I mean, it's not
Right.
like when No Way Home premiered, you could look and see that, oh, wait, Tobey Maguire and
Tobey
Andrew Garfield, what are they
Maguire.
doing in here? So they're not going to put everybody on there.
Just Citizen One and Citizen Three.
Yeah, but yeah, but we also, uh, I mean, I don't believe that he was at the world premiere, Michael B. Jordan. And again, Toby and Andrew weren't at the world premiere of Spider-Man: No Way Home either, so they were very intentional in that. Yeah, I just really hope that he does end up being a part of it. The other possible thought is that maybe Black Panther could either be kind of like Captain America is now, where Sam Wilson doesn't have the super serum soldier. He just dons the suit, and it's more of the ideology of Captain America, but he's a normal person in a suit. Or,
Maybe Sam Wilson gets to take the herb. That'd
hey,
be
dude,
sick.
imagine. Or that, yeah. Or after on the heels of Moon Knight, maybe Black Panther ends up receiving their powers from Bast,
Lost.
becoming an
Yeah.
avatar like Moon Knight, and we know that Bast, or not Bast, but the ancestral plane was referenced in Moon Knight. Just
Yeah, and
FYI,
Bot no.
we got 3 minutes, so and I won't restart it. We'll just end it, but yeah, go for it.
Yeah. And Bost was, or at least
Made an
in Thor: Love
appearance
and
in Thor: Love and
Thunder
Thunder. Although if you didn't
on a
know that,
picture.
if you don't know that she had made an appearance, you wouldn't know that she like they didn't say
Right.
anything about it. I don't think.
I wish they did.
Yeah,
I wish they would have said, "Oh, hey, Bost," like just something like quirky, quick.
yeah,
But
yeah,
they didn't. But we know Marvel. We know. We
yeah,
saw it.
yeah. We did. But yeah, man. So that's the episode. I am so excited for this movie. I can't wait to talk about it after
I'm
because that'll
I'm
definitely be
going to
next
see
week's
it.
episode.
Yeah, I'm going to see it. I've got my tickets for Wednesday night
Nice.
at like
I have for
midnight.
Thursday.
I'm going after work. I work all 3 to 11 this week, so I'm like after work straight to the theater.
Yeah, dude, I'm so jealous. I would go at midnight if I could. So you'll have to let me know. Spoiler free, but you'll have to let me know what you think when you see it. So
I'll just give you a rank out of 10.
yeah, there you go. And then same from you guys. As you guys see the movie this week, let us know what you think. Shoot us an email, leave some comments, and let us know your thoughts. If you're watching this on YouTube, what did you think of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever? Or if you're watching this prior to the fact, what are you excited about? What do you think of some of these theories? What are some theories of your own? We would love to hear it. And yeah, I think this is the turning point for Marvel. I mean, I've been a fan of Phase 4, but I think we're now heading into a stretch of peak Marvel where, I mean, you got this, you have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, you have Secret Invasion, you have Daredevil, like all this amazing stuff.
Yeah,
That's
what's the next thing
Guardians.
after?
I think Ant-Man and the Wasp is technically the next project. I don't know if there's a show before that, but the next movie project I think is Ant-Man and the
Yeah.
Wasp. But then you have the Guardians holiday special
Oh, that's right. That's right.
that
That's
comes up
coming
too.
up.
Yep.
Yep.
So that's gonna be peak. But all right. That's the podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate your support. As always, make sure you guys leave us that 5-star review and share this podcast with your friends if they're into Marvel. We would love it and appreciate it. And make sure you guys send us an email at midwestmarvelguy@gmail.com. We'll read any and all comments as long as they're appropriate on the air. And yeah, we love you guys and hope you guys enjoy this movie because we're super excited about it. So until next time, peace out, nerds.